You know, I was never really fully into comics. When I what the fuck is this comics? When I was younger, I mean, again, I played video games. There are a couple I grazed upon, like the fucking dog welder and the boys, right? And a couple of Daredevil ones online. And I read a lot of web comics online, but I was never really like into the physical tap, so I never went to comic stores or any of that. So, no, I guess I'm not the best authority, but I feel like even then, the comics of the past were actually worth getting into, right? And even today, like, because the point of, say, Batman was that crime never paid, right? And the point of those comics were to appeal to the younger generation. And they made the character at least look the part. Again, the point is to portray more emotion and more of the artistic value as opposed to pushing the value. Like, it pushes situations and it pushes moral conundrums, and it also even pushes like disgusting terrible things, but it does it through a medium where the individual, like, and one, enjoys the medium despite not enjoying what's happening, but two, it can uh it is better to you can digest it better. But comics nowadays, like, I mean, now they only, at least the mainstream ones, you know, the ones you grow up, they only push a message. Like, they don't try to portray emotion. They don't try to even be good. They don't try to connect to the audience. No, it imposes on the audience what they should think. And this is why people are just not into like any of the newer comics. And again, they shit on what came before, so they shit on the old in favor of the new. And people don't like to see that. Like, even from a base fundamental value, like, people don't like the things that came before them, like things that were brought up being shit on, even if it wasn't perfect. I mean, unless you have like an ideology that demands you act this way, it demands you impose your daddy issues on everybody and everything. I don't know. Maybe you had a shitty past, right? But you demand that, oh, because you have a shitty past, that everything in the past was bad. So I came across this, and apparently Robert Jr. Downey Jr. is going to play the new Doctor Doom, be Iron Man and Doctor Doom, and it's like, you know, one, or Robert Downey Jr. is fucking old, like, man's geriatric, right? And but I'm not saying he should be replaced per se, because there is a type of storytelling for, you know, the washed up, you know, superhero of the past, and if told amazingly, people don't care. Like, My Hero Academia does the same thing, right? You have the washed up hero that is now not entirely a zero, but he still makes himself useful, right? But that doesn't seem to be the case with comics. Like, in comics, they not only try to replace what came before, but they actively spit on what came before. Like, they believe they can do better, and everything that comes from their hands is by the hand of God, and that they are the IP. And that would be fine if they would create something new. But what they want to do is ride the skin suit, like wear the skin suit of the old and shit on it. And so you have this odd ideology of people that, again, I don't need to get into. Like, I know. See, I'm gonna do this way of communication. Like, I don't need to keep pointing out what we're talking about. The type of individuals that you look at, and already know their opinions on like Hamas. You already know their opinions on Black Lives Matter and on social justice. They go after Robert Downey for a completely different reason than say I would. They said that they're whitewashing, and apparently Doctor Doom was Roma ethnicity or Romanian in the comics, and this is the odd fringe way they come after Robert Downey, right? They don't come after the fact that he's old and the fact that I mean, there's no new popular actors that are out. Like, hell, VTubers are more popular than actors nowadays. Like, no, they have to attack the ethnicity. They have to go after the race. They even have a word for it. They call it whitewashing. Like, these racists actually have a word to describe this. And it's like, okay, so this has come from the same people that defends, like, Netflix, Cleopatra, are the exact same type of people that are defending the Yasuke game, the Assassin's Creed Shadow, right? The same people that are defending those games are going after this for the exam. They use the same line of logic. Oh, it's whitewashing. And it's from the companies that if they were like, there's gonna be a movie about the presidential assassination. I wouldn't be surprised if they cast a black person to be Trump. Like, at this point, the race swapping, you have to do it. It is something that is imposed. If you do not do this, they go after you. Like, they want the people to be, like, they want to play the spot the racist game, but they don't want to play the put out an actual good fucking product game. Right? It's what they want. And it's odd that they're going after him just in particular. I mean, what is this? I doubt this movie's even going to be good. And this was at a Comic Con, right? So, an interesting way to tell this. But, and again, you have people that, again, I'm not a comic fanatic, but I think comics, like all types of fiction, should, serve a purpose, right? And even if it's just mindless reading, like, I think it's better that, people get it. Like, because art is a product of the culture at the time, right? It's why, Robocop and, like, Judge Dredd, in most superhero movies were the way they are because they came out at a time that required, you had high crime rates. Like, it was actually a lucrative business to be a criminal. At the end of it all was just the average citizen. So they consumed products like RoboCop because you get to see the criminal get the comeuppance, and again, it also proves the point that crime never pays. But it's like, what are shows nowadays trying to tell young people, right? Because I grew up with banger entertainment when I was younger, and people for some reason believe that kids nowadays just don't deserve that. In fact, some believe no, kids just should not be entertained. Like, we should shove ideology down their throat at all, in all forms, at every given point of the time. And it's the ideology of the small, tiny fringe minority, but it's being touted by mainstream journalists as if, no, this is the correct way to think. And it's like, okay, but then you have anime on the cusp of all this, and they seem to be actually giving a superior product. So again, what does that say about the message? The company that claims to be inclusive, but they exclude, like, all 90% of the fan base, and they cater to the small fringe vocal radical minority. Like, what, they have a completely different definition of inclusive. It's like, oh, I see. Okay. But, I mean, I guess my whole take on this is, why can't we do anything new? And why do we have to hire the washed up, old actors of the past? And why do people gotta argue from such idiotic, moral, and ideologically fringed arguments? It's just fucking. It's weird. Like, there's no. I don't think there's any place for this, especially not in entertainment, which, according to, again, those types of people, is subjective, but they objectively know what should be touted and what is allowed, and they impose that on everybody and everything else. It's just, yeah, I see. So you are trying to push an ideology. But anyway, that's all I really got to say about this. Peace.